Now to an I-Team exclusive. There are new questions about the police investigation into the dating app death of a young woman, Lauren Smith Fields, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Investigative reporter Sarah Wallace delves into that mystery.
You know the worst news you could ever receive? It's when the police show up. It's when your life ends and their investigation begins. It should be a moment of official respect. But what if the police came and then simply left? Instead of a compassionate knock, Chantel Fields found a note on her 23-year-old daughter Lauren's apartment door. The Bridgeport police had already processed the death, and their notification to her mother was a handwritten scrap of paper. This wasn't an oversight. It was a direct act of institutional abandonment. The Curiosity Gap and Stakes police quickly called Lauren's death an accident after a first date with Matthew LaFountain. Case closed. But when Lauren's family got inside, they found evidence police missed: blood, a forgotten pill, a used condom. Why did the detective defending Matthew LaFountain assure the family he was a nice guy? The full truth of what happened that night is still hidden, but the proof of the cover-up was left on the floor. Don't wait until the system fails you. If a department can ignore this level of injustice, you need to see these true crime stories. Hit that subscribe button right now. Your awareness is the only protection you have. Welcome to Unseen True Crime Stories, where the darkest secrets and untold cases come to light. Consider subscribing and tapping the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next true crime story.
Their sister, our loved one. They thought they was gonna just throw her away like she was
garbage.
Amid this family's anguish are emotions of outrage and disgust at how the Bridgeport Police Department has investigated the mysterious death of 23-year-old Lauren Smith Fields.
It was careless. It was no concern. There was no care for the family about how we felt, our grief, our pain, none of that.
It's Monday, December 13th, 2021. For Chantel Fields, the fear had begun to settle in. She hadn't heard from her daughter, Lauren, all day Sunday. Not one text returned. Not one call picked up. The silence wasn't ordinary. It was heavy. It was wrong. Have you ever just felt a silence where there should be sound? A gut feeling that screams danger, that tells you everything is already too late? That's the feeling that forced Chantel into her car. She drove straight to Lauren's Bridgeport apartment, her son, Lakeem Jeter, with her. The drive was desperate. They pull up. They see the locked door, the windows dark. The anxiety builds. And then, they see it. Taped to the wood. Not a police car. Not a uniformed officer. Just that note: if you're looking for Lauren, call this number. Chantel initiated the call. They waited by the vehicle until a landlord arrived. Not a law enforcement professional. A landlord. This is how Chantel Fields found out her daughter was dead. The moment was described as paralyzing. Frozen. Disbelief was the first crushing emotion. The Bridgeport police had possessed Lauren's ID and passport since the day before. They had already ordered an autopsy. Yet they outsourced the most sacred duty of their job, notifying the next of kin, to a third party. This procedural deviation, this profound lack of professional respect, immediately turned a tragedy into a civil rights issue.
Cups of drinks or whatever next to a bottle, they didn't take none of that. We seen a condom, we seen lube, other stuff in there, and they didn't take none of it.
The landlord provided the name, Detective Kevin Cronin. Lakeem called the detective. He needed a fact. Cronin finally offered a detail they could grasp. Lauren had been on a date with an older man, Matthew LaFountain, whom she met on Bumble. But then, Cronin did the inexplicable. He attempted to dismiss Matthew's relevance entirely, assuring Lakeem he was a really nice guy. A detective defending the last person seen with the deceased? Why was Cronin so invested in clearing Matthew before an investigation even started? You have to keep watching to see the damning consequence of that sentence. To fully grasp the failure of the police, you must understand who Lauren Smith Fields was. This isn't just a number in a police report. This is a life. She was a former track standout, currently enrolled at Norwalk Community College. Her long-term goal? Physical therapist. Her mirror was lined with notes detailing her aspirations. Chantel called her energetic, a hugger. Lauren was committed to health, regularly hitting the gym. This biography, this commitment to fitness and future, is the essential stake. It's the emotional foundation that utterly defies the official ruling that was coming. Now, let's look at the night her life ended. December 11th, 2021. Lauren, 23, was on a first-time date. The man was Matthew LaFountain, 37. They'd connected on the dating app, Bumble. According to Matthew's statement to the police, she invited him to her apartment. They ate, played games, and had tequila. A typical date night unfolding. But then, the timeline hits a strange key point. Matthew reported that at one moment, Lauren left the apartment. She stepped outside briefly to meet with her brother, Lakeem. She came back in and immediately went into the bathroom for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's an easily dismissed sequence in a report. But this brief period outside, then secluded, is the only moment in the known timeline where the victim could have acquired or consumed the deadly substances later found in her system. Matthew claims she came out. They resumed the movie, and Lauren fell asleep on the couch. He says he carried her to the bedroom, laid her down, and fell asleep next to her. He woke at 3 a.m., and she was fine, snoring. Then came 6:30 a.m. Matthew woke up and found her non-responsive. Blood was coming from her nostril. But how did fentanyl, two potent sedatives, and alcohol enter a healthy young woman's body during a first date? Was this fatal cocktail consumed by accident? Or was Lauren set up by the man sleeping right next to her? We need to know. The first phase of the night ended at 6:30 a.m. Matthew woke up. He saw Lauren lying on her right side. He realized the blood was actively coming from her nostril and pooling onto the bed. She wasn't breathing. He made the frantic 911 call, following the operator's instructions to perform chest compressions. They failed. When first responders arrived, Officer Carla Ramel noted in her report that Matthew appeared trembling and visibly shaken. Lauren was pronounced dead. Officers noted her body position, the dried blood, and they documented one other thing: $1,345 in cash inside the apartment. They gathered Lauren's phone, keys, and passport. And then, the catastrophic failure. The Bridgeport Police Department treated the death as non-suspicious. They closed the scene. They left. 2 days later, the family, reeling from the unbelievable news, drove to Lauren's apartment to start the horrific process of cleaning. And what they found wasn't just heartbreaking. It was a devastating indictment of law enforcement. Imagine this trauma. You're collecting your daughter's final belongings, and you find crucial forensic evidence that the police, who were there, simply didn't bother to take. Chantel and Lakeem found bloody bedsheets, a discarded used condom, and an unidentified pill on the counter. The family had to call the police, forcing them to return to the apartment to collect the vital physical evidence they had completely compromised. This wasn't minor carelessness. The integrity of the case, any potential DNA, any drug analysis was destroyed by the BPD's profound lack of basic protocol. They noted the cash. They saw the body. They left the bloody sheets and biological material. The police immediately enabled Matthew to remain a simple witness, not a person of interest. If the police treated your loved one's death with this level of gross incompetence, leaving behind what could be the crucial clue, what would you do? The BPD insists this was just a mistake. Others say it was intentional. If you're still watching but still haven't subscribed, go to the comments now. Tell everyone. Do you think the police left that evidence because they were lazy or because they never wanted to find out the full truth? Give us your real opinion. Weeks passed. The compromise scene remained compromised, but the family kept demanding the official truth. In late January 2022, the Connecticut office of the chief medical examiner finally released the results. The cause of death was ruled acute intoxication. The manner of death was classified as accidental. The details, however, tell a far more complex story. This wasn't a simple mistake. Lauren's body contained a powerful, strange cocktail of substances: fentanyl, promethazine, hydroxyzine, And alcohol, let's call this combination exactly what it is, a weapon. You have fentanyl, the potent opioid, mixed with two strong central nervous system depressants, promethazine and hydroxyzine, plus the tequila she drank on the date. This combination creates a deadly synergy. It's a recipe guaranteed to cause respiratory failure. Here is the core of the paradox. A healthy, athletic, goal-oriented 23-year-old with no known history of drug use dies from a mix of street opioid and multiple prescription-grade sedatives. The family knew she would not ingest this. Her lawyer, Darnell Crossland, suggested publicly that the combination, especially the sedatives, was indicative of potential drug-facilitated assault. The ME's accident ruling only explains the mechanism of death. It completely fails to account for the circumstances of ingestion. It doesn't tell us who put that lethal mix into Lauren's body. With the official ruling in hand, the Bridgeport police thought their non-investigation was justified. But the family's fury was growing. They knew the police had enabled a cover-up. And their next move, using the power of social media and activism, would finally break the silence and force the system to reverse its course. What happened 6 weeks later finally forced the police to open a criminal case.
Zero connection between any detectives and my client.
Garbage.
Amid this family's anguish are emotions of outrage and disgust at how the Bridgeport Police Department has investigated the mysterious death of 23-year-old Lauren Smith Fields.
It was careless. It was no concern. There was no care for the family about how we felt, our grief, our pain, none of that.
The I-Team obtained this police report of the response to a 911 call from Lauren's apartment on the morning of December 12th from a white male identified as Matthew LaFountain. The investigator notes he was trembling and visibly shaken. LaFountain said they met on the dating site Bumble, began drinking shots of tequila, and Lauren became ill. That later they played some games, ate some food, and started to watch a movie. He says he carried her to her bedroom and laid her in her bed. He then laid down next to her and fell asleep. He woke up again at approximately 0630 hours, and she was laying on her right side. Blood was coming out of her right nostril onto the bed, and she was not breathing.
The whole day goes by. No police reach out to the family at all.
Her close-knit family says they went to the apartment the next day after frantically calling and texting Lauren and were referred to a Detective Cronin.
They didn't even contact us. They didn't let us know anything. It's crazy. And I'm asking what's going on. He said she met some guy on Bumble. And I'm asking about the guy. He was like, oh, he sounds like a really nice guy. He sounds like a really good guy. And he was like, I'll call you back, and just hung up in my face.
Balloons on 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Lauren! Justice for Lauren! Justice for Lauren! Justice for Lauren! Justice for Lauren!
The contrast with high-profile cases involving white women was not lost on anyone. Experts called out the racial bias in policing and media coverage. The shame finally broke the department's resistance. 6 weeks after Lauren's death, Mayor Ganim ordered an internal investigation into the BPD's conduct, and the department was finally forced to open a full criminal investigation into the circumstances of her death. But was 6 weeks too late to catch the killer?
Nothing bad happened. You would at least even reach out to the family yourself. Listen,
Exactly.
I know I'm sorry for your loss of your daughter or your sister.
Is that the police failed to collect and preserve that environment from the first day.
The public pressure worked, but it didn't bring quick justice. It brought administrative discipline. Following the internal investigation, Mayor Ganim ordered the immediate suspension of 2 detectives, Kevin Cronin and Angel Llanos. Ganim publicly expressed his disappointment, calling their response unacceptable. It was a small, public win, a moment where the system seemed to concede failure. But then came the pushback. The officers' union filed grievances against the suspensions, and the union won. An independent arbitrator reversed Detective Llanos' suspension. A detective who grossly mishandled a death notification was put back on the job. It was a clear demonstration that internal resistance often outweighs public outcry, protecting officers from the consequences of profound professional negligence. Recognizing the fight for criminal accountability was stalled, the Smithfields family shifted strategy. They filed a massive $30 million civil rights lawsuit against the city of Bridgeport, the officers, Matthew LaFountain, and even the dating app, Bumble. The suit claimed their constitutional rights were violated by the BPD's failure to investigate and by the alleged racial bias. The court battle was hard-fought. While a judge acknowledged the officers may have acted negligently or even incompetently, the legal standard to prove racial discrimination was not met. However, the city couldn't outrun its own documented incompetence. The lawsuit finally ended with a $2 million financial settlement paid by the City of Bridgeport to the Smithfields family. It was an admission of liability, a payment for the systemic disrespect shown to Lauren and her loved ones. $2 million. Is that the price of justice? Or just the cost of silencing the conversation? If you are still watching, still feeling the anger, but you won't hit that subscribe button, you need to tell me why. Go to the comments and justify your choice. Tell me what piece of this injustice makes you risk forgetting this story. The legal fight for compensation is over. The money has been paid. But the question of who gave Lauren the lethal drugs, the real question, remains officially unanswered. Was $2 million the final price of accountability, or just the final price of institutional failure?
Any investigation, they let the guy go without any questioning, and they took a slight statement from him. And in that statement, he said that they never had sex, that he slept with his clothes on. But yet still, 2 weeks after her death, we have to force them to collect a condom with semen in it, a thing of lubricant, a pill that was found on the counter, and a bloody bed sheet. We have to force the police to take it. And to this day, those items still have not been submitted to the state forensic laboratory. And so why does it need the whole world to respond to this stuff is beyond me. And I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon. So we have to make them pay. Sometimes the only time to get justice is to make them pay, so that way they realize that the city's gonna go bankrupt if this continues.
The legal judgment is complete. The money has been paid. But the most important question, the one that holds the key to justice, remains suspended in silence. Who administered the lethal drug cocktail that killed Lauren Smithfields? Because the Bridgeport police failed to secure the evidence, failed to investigate Matthew LaFountain, and failed to notify Chantel with basic human decency, the criminal truth is likely gone forever. This case isn't just a story about a first date gone wrong. It's about what happens when the very people sworn to protect you decide your life isn't worth their time. It's the ultimate lesson in systemic neglect. The takeaway is terrifyingly simple. Trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it is. Document everything. When the system fails to acknowledge your loved one, you must become their only voice. You must fight to make noise. Lauren Smithfields deserved better than a note on a door. She deserved a full, professional investigation. She deserved the truth. Don't let her story be forgotten. If you understand the urgency of being aware of these failures, if you agree that the silence must never win, then show your support right now. Like this video, share it, and hit subscribe to Unseen True Crime Stories. Your awareness is the only weapon we have to keep these cases visible. We'll see you in the next one.